Andy No joins us once again. Lots to talk about, Andy. First of all, great to see you, and great to see you in one piece. You are on the front
Thank
line.
you for having me on.
You bet, you bet. Hey, just overall, the temperature of the country right now. Nobody really has a sense of the streets like you do. How does this compare to 2020, where we are right now? You think things are about to blow up? Are things simmering out there? Does that make sense? What's your overall take on America right now?
Well, we have two radicalizing forces happening this year. Domestically, there are the elections, of course, and then we also have the geopolitical issues involving Israel and Hamas in the Middle East that has radicalized another generation of far left extremists. So I'm concerned for what is ahead for America this summer with the recent encampments that happened at the universities across the United States. What we saw was that many of the same militant far left extremist groups and activists mobilized to join forces with radical students at universities to take over space violently, to set up encampments, so-called autonomous zones, and they guarded these with their security forces who were armed, and they committed violence against journalists and other people who were trying to document their public demonstration.
Well, we know that at least some of these leftists, even people who lean left, are getting a little bit tired of all the stuff that comes with the left, the lawlessness, the degraded quality of life. Something interesting happening out in Portland, a place you know very well. The incumbent district attorney, Mike Schmidt, who I understand is a bit on the woke side, and is a bit like, oh, let them all go, and there are plenty of alternatives to prison and jail and trials. He's in the run of his life right now. He may lose to a more conservative, a more law and order opponent by the name of Nathan Vasquez. Do I have that right? And what does this portend, if anything?
You do have that right. Schmidt is worse than woke. He was elected in 2020 by over 76% of the voters in Multnomah County, where Portland is. And he was part of this new class of leftist so-called progressive district attorneys across the United States who came into office stating that they wanted to use the criminal justice system to right some of the wrong of systemic racism. And so how that actually worked is that he and others like him in DA offices chose not to prosecute many classes of crimes to try to even out the demographic profiles of criminal suspects and convicts. And that's wreaked havoc in cities like Portland. Portland, under his tenure, had 2 years back-to-back of record homicides, record shootings, record fentanyl deaths. And he championed decriminalizing the possession of hard drugs. And so he has a very bloody legacy. Yesterday was an election day in Multnomah County, and currently the votes are still coming in, but Schmidt is over 8 percentage points behind his centrist opponent, and Schmidt is expected to lose to not make the threshold for a follow-up election in November. This is pretty earth-shattering in Portland, Oregon, the city of roses, because this is a very far-left city. And if voters here are getting fed up with the pro-crime agenda of some of these far-left politicians, that's a warning shot fired to the remaining DAs like Schmidt who are still in office in places like LA and Philadelphia and other places.
This is awesome. I like it. Wow. And that Chesa Boudin guy in San Francisco, they kicked him out. Hey, as we look at some of the video you recorded, and you're right in the middle of riots sometimes, do you see familiar faces? And do you get to know some of these people who keep on showing up? And is there a profile? Like, you've been doing this for quite a while now. Is there a lifespan for an Antifa member, for an anarchist? Did they do it for 2 years, 3 years? When they hit 25 or 26, did they get out of it and get a job? Have you noticed any patterns like that? Are there any patterns?
Well, often when I'm on the ground, I don't recognize the people right away because they're masked up completely in black with their faces covered, sometimes even their eyes covered with sunglasses. So you can't see anything. And that's intentional. It's so they can get away with organized criminality. But this is where the public records request for jail bookings is so important. Mugshots can help me identify people. And if that's not available because of the legislation change, Oregon changed its law in reaction to my publishing of mugshots, you can't get that anymore. But at least you can get the names and the charges. Then I can see the names, the people who were arrested recently, for example, at the Portland State encampment. Some of those suspects were arrested repeatedly in the riots in 2020 and 2021. So I think this is why this journalism is so important. There needs to be more people doing it. There is a lot of organized far left extremists in America. You can see how they can activate very easily over a number of causes. It was George Floyd before, it's Israel and Hamas now. It will be something different in a number of months. And their tactics are getting better because they learn from each one of these direct actions. You asked if they age out. Unfortunately, most of them do not. What they go on to do is they continue to be involved for years. The people who are involved in the riots now were involved 4 years before, and a decade before that were involved in the Occupy movement.
Oh, yeah, that thing. Well, we're grateful. Please be safe. And Andy No, you can follow him at Mr. Andy No, Mr. Andy No, NGO, by the way, Andy No. Thank you, sir.
My pleasure.